What would you do if the only person you trusted suddenly hurt you? Today's story isn't just about a dog. It's about loyalty, betrayal, and a decision that will leave you questioning what forgiveness really means. Because what this German Shepherd does next will absolutely shock you. Stay with me until the end, because this story will break your heart and then heal it in a way you never expected. Max. That was his name. A name given with love once upon a time, when life was simple and full of belly rubs, warm beds, and people who smiled every time he wagged his tail. But life doesn't always stay that way, does it? Sometimes, the ones we love the most walk away, leaving behind nothing but a leash and a memory. Max was abandoned, left to survive on his own until a shelter took him in. He had no idea what a shelter really meant. To him, it was hope. A second chance. Maybe, just maybe, someone would love him again. And for a while, things seemed okay. People fed him, patted his head, and told him he was a good boy. But then, something happened. Something Max never saw coming. Something that would change everything. What would you do if the world kept hurting you, yet your heart refused to turn cold? Because Max. He had a choice, and what he did next will make you rethink what loyalty really means. Max wasn't just any dog. He was the kind of German Shepherd you'd see in movies, strong, graceful, eyes full of intelligence and heart. But behind those eyes was a story that most would never imagine. You see, Max once belonged to a family. A family he loved more than life itself. Every day was an adventure, morning walks, playtime in the yard, and those quiet nights when he'd curl up near the couch, listening to the hum of his humans' laughter. For Max, they weren't just owners, they were his world. But life? Life can change in the blink of an eye. One day, they left. No explanation. No goodbye. Just, gone. Max waited by the door for hours, then days. His food bowl stayed empty. His tail wagged a little less each morning, until the silence became unbearable. Then came strangers, the animal control officers, who took him away. And that's how Max found himself behind cold metal bars, in a shelter full of barking dogs and faces he didn't know. Still, Max held on to hope. That's the thing about dogs, they love without limits. No matter how much the world hurts them, they believe, tomorrow will be better. The shelter wasn't all bad. Some workers were kind. They petted him, gave him treats, whispered words like, "Good boy." Max wagged his tail every time someone passed by his cage, believing one of them would take him home forever. But not everyone saw Max as the loyal soul he was. For some, he was just another chore. Another dog in a long line of barking mouths to feed. And that's where everything began to change. Because Max was about to learn that even in the place where hope is supposed to live, cruelty can still find you. Max believed life had finally given him another chance, but what happened next, in the hands of someone he trusted, would shatter his heart, and yours. It was an ordinary afternoon at the shelter. The sun streamed faintly through the dusty windows, casting long shadows across the cold concrete floors. The air smelled of kibble and disinfectant, mixed with the sound of restless paws scratching metal bars. To Max, this was routine. Another day of waiting, another day of wagging his tail at strangers passing by. Then, he saw him, the worker. The man whose face Max had grown familiar with. Not overly friendly, but not cruel either. Max thought maybe, just maybe, today he'd stop for a little pat on the head. That's all Max ever wanted, just a touch, a sign that he mattered. The man approached with a leash in hand. Max's tail began to thump against the floor, slow at first, then faster, like a drumbeat of hope. He stood up, ears perked, tongue out, heart racing. To Max, this was love. This was connection. But for the man, it was just another task. Another cage to open. Another dog to deal with. The latch clicked. The gate swung wide. And as Max leaped forward with joy, something snapped inside the worker. Maybe it was stress. Maybe frustration. Maybe he'd had a bad day. But what happened next, no one could justify. Smack. The sound echoed through the room like a whip cracking the air. Max froze. His body stiffened. His eyes widened, not in anger, but in confusion. The world tilted. For a moment, silence fell, broken only by the distant barks of other dogs. The worker muttered something under his breath, yanking Max's leash harder than necessary. But Max didn't fight. He didn't growl. He didn't even flinch again. He just lowered his head. Imagine that. The only creature you trust, hurting you. The one moment you thought would be filled with kindness, filled with pain instead. Max's heart didn't just break, it shattered. He didn't understand why. Dogs never do. All he knew was the sting on his face, and the ache deep inside his soul. Most dogs would have snapped. Most would have fought back. But not Max. What he did next shocked everyone in that shelter, and it will shock you too. Everyone in the shelter who saw the incident expected the same thing: aggression. A dog like Max, strong and powerful, could have easily lunged, growled, even bitten back. That's what fear and pain often do, they turn love into anger. But Max didn't do any of that. He didn't bark. He didn't snap. He didn't even show his teeth. Instead, he froze. His tail stopped wagging. His ears drooped. Slowly, almost painfully, he sank to the ground and lay there, his eyes staring straight ahead, empty, distant, like the light inside him had gone out. The worker, maybe realizing what he'd done, muttered under his breath and walked away, leaving Max in silence. Around him, the world kept moving, dogs barking, doors slamming, voices echoing, but for Max, everything had gone quiet. That moment wasn't just a slap. It was a betrayal deeper than words. And yet, what came after would make everyone question what forgiveness really looks like. Over the next few days, Max changed. He didn't greet people with wagging tails anymore. He didn't press his nose against the bars, hoping for love. He just existed. Eating less, sleeping more, as if his heart had given up even though his body was still alive. And then came the day that changed everything. The shelter worker, the same man who had struck Max, was in trouble. Serious trouble. Something happened that put his life in danger. And the only one close enough to help was Max. Now, here's where the story takes a turn you'll never forget. The same dog who was hurt, humiliated, and heartbroken, is about to make a choice that will leave you speechless. It happened on a quiet afternoon. The shelter buzzed with routine, feeding time, cleaning time, the same rhythm of locked doors and heavy sighs. The worker, the same man who had struck Max, was making his rounds. He opened one of the kennels, unaware that a large, frightened dog was waiting inside. The next few seconds were chaos. The dog lunged, not Max, but another one, bigger, stronger, filled with fear and rage. In an instant, the worker was on the ground, his voice echoing through the shelter in a cry for help. And then, the unimaginable happened. Max heard it first. That voice, the same voice that had yelled at him, the same hands that had hurt him, calling out in desperation. Most would say he had every reason to ignore it. Every reason to let fate take its course. But Max didn't hesitate. Like a flash of fur and muscle, Max broke from his enclosure. How? No one knows. Maybe the latch wasn't closed right, maybe luck was on his side. But within seconds, Max was there, leaping between the worker and the attacking dog. Teeth clashed. Growls tore through the air. Max fought with everything he had, not for food, not for freedom, but to protect the very man who had hurt him. Blood stained the floor, but Max didn't back down until the other dog was restrained. When the chaos ended, the worker sat on the floor, shaking, staring at Max. This dog, this soul he had broken, had just saved his life. And as the worker reached out with trembling hands, Max did something that broke every heart watching. He wagged his tail. Slowly. Gently. As if to say, I forgive you. If you've ever doubted the power of loyalty, what Max did in that moment will change everything you thought you knew about forgiveness. And the ending? It's something you'll carry with you forever. The shelter was silent. Workers stood frozen, watching the unbelievable scene before them. Max, panting heavily, stood guard over the man who once slapped him. His fur was matted with sweat, his body trembling from the struggle, but his eyes? They were calm. Gentle. Forgiving. The worker's hand shook as he reached out and touched Max's head. For the first time, his voice broke, not in anger, but in tears. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Max licked his hand. That was it. No grudges. No resentment. Just love, pure, unconditional, unexplainable love. Word spread quickly. The story of the German Shepherd who saved the man who hurt him went viral in the local community. People came forward, wanting to adopt Max, to give him the life he truly deserved. And this time, fate got it right. Max didn't go home with just anyone. He was adopted by a family that understood loyalty, kindness, and second chances. A home where slaps were replaced with hugs, where betrayal was replaced with trust. As for the worker, that day changed him forever. He didn't just see Max as a dog anymore. He saw him as a teacher, a soul that taught him the most powerful lesson of all. Forgiveness doesn't make you weak. It makes you strong. Stronger than anger, stronger than pain. Max's story isn't just about a dog. It's about all of us. How many times have we been hurt, betrayed, left behind? And how many times do we hold on to that pain, instead of letting it go? Because sometimes, forgiveness isn't about the other person. It's about setting yourself free. If this story touched your heart, share it with someone who needs hope today. And remember, in a world where you can be anything, choose to be kind. This was Max's story. And now, it's your turn. What would you do if the one who hurt you needed saving?